Hello, my friends. This is Obi-wan MuGaBa, or simply Obi-Wan. And today we're talking about the next topic on our table of contents of topics to be discussed. And the question is, who am I? Remember your magnificence. The question, who am I? And for that question, we really need to recognize the I in the question. Who am I is the question. So, what is the I that we're talking about that's seeking to know what it is? Well, I consider the answer to that question to be the consciousness, because when you say who am I, you're asking yourself, this question, and it has to be your consciousness is asking the question. Because we're dealing with trying to understand the meanings of words, and words are deceptive according to what they mean, but I think it is pretty well understood, the term consciousness, defining the concept of a person's self-awareness is their consciousness. And so this is a pretty good word. And so if you're saying who is this consciousness, well, this consciousness is simply a drop in the ocean of collective consciousness of humanity. We all share this collective consciousness, this oneness, wholeness, equal unity, this sense of belonging to all, that we must all unite as one with one intent. The power of our collective intent in a united way is awesome. But beyond that, beyond the collective consciousness part of it, who am I as an individual? That also is part of the question, and the individual part is simply the answer is you are an individuated consciousness, an individuated portion of the collective consciousness that has an individuated self-concept of itself. Some call it an ego, call that whatever, but it's a self-awareness of itself just as an individual. And that part of you is unique to yourself and precious. And what's more, you as the individual are eternal. You have always existed, you always shall exist. Each and every one of us as individuals are all eternal. We always have existed, and the only thing that is temporary is the conscious memory of the experience. But the spirit is eternal. It goes on and on and on. However, it always needs to be said in direct connection with that thought is that life itself in this three-dimensional reality on this planet Earth at this time, life itself is absolutely the most precious thing there is. And so it should never ever be wasted in any sort of way. It should always be used in a way to promote the love and harmony and good for the all. The do no harm principle always applies everywhere. So this is part of who we are, that we are part of this collective consciousness that really has good intent, only good for the all. And then the remember your magnificence. This is a phrase that was originally heard by me from the mouth of Anita Moorjani. Anita Moorjani is a lady that experienced what has been called a near-death experience, and on her recovery, she had this miraculous recovery from very, very bad disease of the body, and she recognized what it's all about, and she was trying to help people recognize this thought of remember your magnificence, and she says it very well in her work, in her book, I think by that very name. And it's a very, I've read that. It's a very good book. Um, so the thought, remember your magnificence. The word magnificence is not one that you commonly use when you're thinking about yourself. Usually, if you're of a sane state of mind, unless you're not an egomaniac or something, and generally people are not thinking of themselves under the term of magnificent. But for the sake of this discussion, it means just that. Remember your magnificence, because while it's so important to remember to be your humility and to remain humble, at the same time, you need to recognize that you are a very, 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 very powerful being that has simply been trapped into a human body consciousness routine that has been forced to submit to, just endure it for another whatever 100 years, or 1,000 years, whatever, to this consciousness. Time is of no value. I mean, it's irrelevant. It's been endless. So time is time, but it has to endure right now because it's been subjected to this. But it doesn't really want to do that. It wants to really be what it is, which is part of the collective consciousness of humanity that's free and that's only interested in love and light and good things, and wants to see all of the life that's on this planet Earth become one united, happy, loving family of humanity. You know, this is what bonds us together. There's no reason for any war. There's no reason for any hatred, for jealousy or animosity. There's only reason for love between humans and humans. There's no reason for anything else. There's no reason for it. I don't care what reason you want to think, because nationalism or religious fervor, or, there's no reason for anything except love between humans, right? And we're just talking about the purest kind of love. That's agape love, as described in the Bible. It's the love of principle that says, I love you unconditionally, and because you are you, you have every right as I am me. It's the kind of love that says namaste. To me, the term namaste means simply the divinity in me bows to the divinity in you. Namaste. This is why this is such a wonderful term, because it's recognizing an equality of divinity. So we have to be both correct and humble, at the same time, in a very sincere way, always. It's just a reminder, of what we really are. And that's the way it should be, because we're really powerful, and we need to remain humble, because all we are right now is human beings, and we need to help one another get through this period of transition from being dominated by the aggressive group, the clan, the cabal, whatever you want to call them, the ones that are in power now, that they need to be taken out of power and permanently separated from any kind of control whatsoever over anybody. They need to be separated from that altogether forever. Because we do not need people, telling us how to live and how to be controlled. None of us do. The whole idea of a government is repugnant to all of these free souls that we're speaking of, because, what is a government? Just think of the breakdown of the words, govern and ment, as in control, and mind, mente. That's what it is. It's a mind control thing to tell you, do this, don't do that. If you don't do this, we're going to come and get you with the big stick. And we don't need that. So there's no need for any kind of government. The only kind of concept that comes anywhere near a government that we can use as something considered to be called a tribal council, and where you simply have experienced citizens of the community getting together to discuss a problem that needs a resolution and needs a clear mind. And then they just talk it over among themselves. That's as simple as it needs to be. It doesn't need to be judges with robes and wigs and you just need to have people talk about it and come to a clear understanding. And that's a tribal council, and that's worked for eons, so we don't need anything more. So there you go. So when you think of remember your magnificence, you are really, really magnificent. I mean, you've always been. You're eternal. You've had no beginning. You've existed forever. There's no limit to the experiences that you've had and will continue to have. It just goes on and on and on. And you have access. You have ability to have access through the Akashic records. You have ability to do that. So in time we'll learn how to gain access to the Akashic records that we all share in common. So who am I? I'm just a drop in the ocean of humanity's collective consciousness, but at the same time I'm an individuated person, an individuated drop of consciousness, and I am eternal and forever, and I've always been and always shall be. I'm not something that is seeking salvation. I don't need any salvation from anything because I already am. I already am everything. I'm just experiencing it. So that's what we mean when we say, who am I? And remember your magnificence. When you recognize this as a reality, when it becomes your reality, when you can say those words and you mean them just as much as I say them and I mean them to be my reality, well then we will have reached this kind of oneness that is what will be uniting everyone. And there's many, many people that already believe this way. I'm just one of many that are saying this very same truth. So remember who you are. You are magnificent. And with that thought, thank you very much. Good night.